Batman vs Iron Man is finally out, bringing Death Battle back from its mid-season break. For Season 8, I usually cover all related episodes to the one I'm talking about, which Nem will also be doing, by the way, go watch his video linked in the description, but I covered Batman's other 3 episodes in a different video a while ago, and I'm writing more about Tony vs Lex for when I remaster my Season 2 ranking. For this video, I'll be focusing on just Batman vs Iron Man. I made it no secret that I wasn't a fan of this match happening for Death Battle given the context of these characters' histories, with Batman already having 3 episodes and Iron Man having one that's nearly impossible to live up to with his spiritual successor, and the overuse of Marvel and DC in general certainly didn't help. You could say I was being too cynical with it, but that's kinda what I was going for. I went into Lex vs Doom expecting a great episode and got a mediocre one, so maybe if I went into this one expecting mediocrity, I'd be even more pleasantly surprised. Well, that's what my plan was anyway, but then the previews just had to come along and ruin it. The first few minutes of Batman's rundown that they showed fucking sucked, but I quite enjoyed Iron Man's. And the fight preview was giving me high hopes since it looked like a great start to the battle. So, did the episode live up to my now fairly high expectations, or was it another generic cape shit fight? I wasn't sure what to expect. A lot of my friends loved it, but Nem just hit me with, it was better than Lex vs Doom. So I was excited, but also worried at the same time. And the episode was, well, let's talk about it. I enjoyed the analysis well enough. It didn't feel too retready like Batman vs Black Panther did, thanks to them having way more to talk about than their previous appearances. The jokes weren't super hitting me or anything, and some shit like Boomstick saying things like Galaxy Brain and 360 No Scope, Wiz saying the thing at the start of Batman's analysis that I refused to repeat, the shitty memes they had on screen at points, and Boomstick doing this. Come on, don't make me say it. Also, no dummy, 0 out of 10. Oh wait, no, they brought up the back credit card, never mind, 10 out of 10. In all seriousness, I thought the analysis was good outside of the shit I just mentioned. The back credit card made me laugh, I was excited to learn about their crazier armors, Nick once again goes so fucking hard on the editing, and it felt fairly grand in scale now that they finally placed characters solidly at multiversal. None of this he could tear it apart with help stuff, no offhanded mentions in the sidebar. They outright say these two scale to multiversal threats on their strongest armors. And that helped set the stage for what was sure to be a grand scale battle. It was not. Okay, so I loved the start of the fight. I mean, it opens with Batman listening to J-pop as a callback to one of the few parts of his last episode that I actually liked. That's a good sign. The setup makes this feel like an actual story, the references to other characters make it feel like this takes place as part of a bigger world, the backgrounds look outstanding, and I'm really into this voice acting. Batman's not so much at the start, in fact I kinda thought he sounded too much like the honest trailer voice guy at points. But thankfully after things pick up, Gianna gets to deliver some much better lines. Reagan Murdoch as Iron Man though, I really dug their performance actually. They capture most of Tony's usual levels of snark, but my favourite line from him is actually before the fight starts, where he slowly drops the jokey demeanour, demands that Bruce deactivates the watchtower, and then drops, by the way, I know who you are. That's good stuff. Also, to elaborate on the 3D backgrounds, I love how they look. Sometimes the sprites will be angled in a weird way to fit and it's slightly distracting at points, but in general the way the backgrounds look is on par with the rest of the season's sprite fights, and they even interact with the set piece in a way few other battles in this style do. The fight starts and Batman has to play keep away, setting up explosives and turning off the lights. Tony gets a couple other lines I like, and the preview ends with a Hellbat in the shadows towering over Tony's armor. That's a very solid start to the fight. The only thing I dislike is some of Batman's expression work. The rest of this had me going back to it over and over to build my excitement for the rest of the episode. So after the preview ends, the Hellbat smacks Tony into space as he sets up the Dyson Sphere and Batman weaponizes the Watchtower. At first I thought this was really cool and a great way to have the environment come into play, but then I realised after I rewatched it when I wasn't on the verge of falling asleep from exhaustion, wait a minute, he started this fight because he didn't want to take the Watchtower down, and now he's gone and not only destroyed it, but dropped it onto the planet in an area that could very well be densely populated. Good job, Bruce. It's immediately followed up with Batman stomping Tony into a car as a reference to his first fight. I like it. I'd say we should get a reference to Batman vs Cap to round things out, but I am not losing sleep if we don't. Batman walks forward and rips Tony's armor in half and then cracks his neck. Such a minor scene with some amazingly smooth animation, holy shit. And we get the one exchange I was hoping for, but honestly I'm not that into it. I was hoping this would come near the end in a big climactic scene, and since Tony won I would have hoped for it to be his last line of the fight. Instead it feels shoved in for reference sake, which is a little disappointing. I do like the house party protocol shot though. It caught me off guard because I did not expect them to have that many armors on screen at once. The POV shot that follows of Batman setting up the area as the suits rush towards him is great too. And as much as it doesn't use any of the weird quirky gadgets, I also love the bit where Batman single-handedly fights off every single armor. He's tearing them apart with ease, tricking them into hitting each other, all while they have to struggle to even keep up with him. Good stuff. It's capped off with what I'd probably consider the closest thing this episode has to Nem's patented Season 8 shot, with the hand-on Hellbat punch and Bruce's great line, which Gianni delivers really well. We get a cool beam clash which throws Tony through some buildings, followed by another cool shot of the bat-shaped holes in the walls, and then the Godbuster is gone. That's more than a bit disappointing that Tony's strongest armor did nothing more than land a few punches and electrocute Batman, neither of which seemed to phase him, and then it got punched once and died to a single laser. The beam that takes it out doesn't even feel like it hit that hard. This episode falls into the same trap as a lot of Marvel and DC Herald matches, where they'll bring up all these feats of cosmic scale destruction and then do nothing with it. For these two especially, when you bring up that they can destroy the multiverse, I'm not going to be taken aback by them tearing apart a city block. The Hellbat getting taken out isn't much better. I like that Tony uses strategy and how he combats it. Him hacking the suit is even shown earlier in his heads-up display. I also love the look of the laser getting fired from the sun into the earth, but the actual impact of it just isn't there. The thing can blow up a planet at 2% charge, but won't even blow up the city this fight is taking place in. The Hellbat doesn't even look like it's been damaged, it's just been embedded in some dirt, and Batman hops out of it completely fine. That's not an issue with the laser not killing him, but the Hellbat suit is meant to drain his metabolism and have serious negative consequences for using it for too long. But no, he's hunky-dory, no consequences to be found here. I like how the fight ends though, it coming down to a bare-knuckle brawl with their arsenals depleted, only for Tony to reveal he had one more trick up his sleeve is such a great way to close things off. I like Tony's line before he gets punched in the nose, as well as the Ratchet quote. The death's creative, even if it's ultimately an inferior version of Cable's death with the obligatory Season 8 explosion, but regardless, it's good. The conclusion's also solid. It doesn't go super in depth with stats, but I don't think it needed to. They get across that they consider both close in stats to where their arsenals are what would decide it. So I have no issues there outside of, again, them saying the Godbuster would keep up with the Hellbat after showing it getting two-shot in the fight. So, how does this stack up compared to the rest of the season? Well, sadly for me, this is my third least favourite episode of Season 8 so far. Not that I didn't like it, I still enjoyed it quite a bit. I'd give it a 7 out of 10. This isn't a dig at the episode, the competition is just that steep. But yeah, compared to most other sprite fights of this season, it falls short. And if I was to compare it to Beerus vs Galaxia in terms of bringing the season back from its break, that would not bode well. Obviously comparisons are going to be drawn to Tony vs Lex, but I don't really think that's fair to do. Of course I'm going to be slightly disappointed that a character from one of my favourite episodes was brought back in a way that doesn't live up to his first appearance, but also it would be kind of unreasonable for me to say that it has to top my second favourite episode ever for me to consider it a success. I think the only comparison that's fair to make is whether or not they change things up enough to justify bringing the characters back. Because when it comes to returners, there's a big difference between something like Deadpool having each episode of his trilogy focus on a different part of his character, or Hulk and Charizard essentially being different characters outright compared to their first appearances, compared to Wonder Woman or Captain Marvel or even Batman's previous returns being the same song and dance we've seen before. And my bias towards Tony vs Lex isn't going to make me inherently say no to that, because as much shit as I give Lex vs Doom, I think Lex was portrayed more than differently enough to justify the return. He was in a completely different war suit and didn't focus exclusively on the gadgets within it. He's got the Everyman project, the 2D grid thing, the rather ingeniously designed Lexbot. Lex's end of that episode is fine. It was actually Doom who was the step down in variety compared to his fight against Vader. The only things he did there that were new territory were swap minds and take more than a single hit. Batman vs Iron Man, on the other hand, I think somehow managed the tightrope walk of both justifying and not justifying the character's returns at the same time. I think on Tony's end they were able to do enough to set it apart from his battle with Lex. The Endosim and Hulkbuster are nowhere to be seen, he gets the Dyson Sphere, he traps Bruce with the nanomachine armor, he gets to hack the Hellbat, and even though most of his armors do absolutely nothing that isn't bog standard for every Iron Man suit, he still gets to use more than 3. Batman, on the other hand, I don't think did enough for me to say I'm glad he came back. Of course he had the Hellbat and it got to do the laser and the disappearing into bats thing, but also Batman spends most of the fight doing hand-to-hand, with only a select few moments where he gets to be smart. He doesn't get any of his other armors, no final Batsuit, no Justice Buster, none of the other quirky ones they brought up. It was a little disappointing that Tony had all the stuff that they brought up that he never got to use, which I understand is likely because of budget and time constraints. But with Batman, it feels like he got to do the bare minimum. Actually, when he's outside of the Hellbat, he somehow uses fewer gadgets than he did against Black Panther. How the fuck do you manage that? I wish they both got to use more of their wackier armors in the fight. And once again, I get that time and money is a factor. I do not expect them to use everything, or even most of the things in their arsenals, but I also feel that if it's not possible to do more than your standard Marvel vs DC, then maybe don't hype it up as we're giving them everything. I won't pretend like a lot of people didn't set themselves up for disappointment by setting their expectations way too high upon the announcement of the match, but at the same time, when you bring up all this cool shit in the analysis, I don't think it's entirely on the audience when they're disappointed that most of it didn't show up. This is a good episode. Like I said, I'd still give it a 7 out of 10, but it could have been so much more. That said, I'm not going to pretend like that was down to a lack of effort on the crew's part, because there was clearly a lot of passion that went into this. The voice actors did good, the animation was mostly clean with a lot of amazing rigging and very little jank. I loved every bit of hand-drawn stuff. I can't stress enough how good at editing Nick is. And I couldn't find a place to mention it before, but Suit Yourself is such a banger of a backing track. The AC/DC style feels perfectly Iron Man, but also working in the Batman theme at points. And while this isn't necessarily something that's due to the quality of the writing, I like that this was an episode where I had no clue who was going to win. With Poe vs Iron Fist, it was just a matter of what they would include. The consensus in the community was that Mickey, Shadow, Doom, Blake, Star and Cloud would not only win, but stomp horrifically. So it was never a question of if they'd win, it was a matter of how big the gap would be. But here, I went in not having a clue who would win, and that did wonders for getting me invested in the animation and keeping me on the edge of my seat. So, before I get to the highlight reel, which I wasn't in because I was working when my friends watched the episode, I should discuss the next time. Goku Black vs Reverse Flash. When Brandon told me about it, I genuinely did not believe him and I thought that he and the rest of my friend group was playing me. I lived in denial for the next few hours until I found out that, no, they were telling the truth. In the context of Death Battle overusing DC, I'm not thrilled that we're getting 2 in a row, and given that I'm very vocal about how I don't care for most comic battles the show does, you'd probably be surprised to hear that I'm actually super excited for this episode. I wasn't at first, but that's less because of the match and more because I was having a shit day that made it hard for me to get excited for anything. Now, I'm shockingly once again excited for the announcement of a comic fight, for the first time since Flash vs Archie Sonic. Usually the Dragon Ball vs DC arguments would be an immediate red flag for me, but apparently everyone's already agreed that Goku Black is about to get royally fucked up. So that's good, we don't have to deal with that headache. There's also tons of animation potential, though if previous grand-scale DC fights have taught me anything, it's that there is such a thing as too much potential to get excited over. I don't need them to use everything though, just have combat that feels fast-paced in a similar way to Goku vs Superman, Kirby vs Boo, or at least the faster bits of 18 vs Captain Marvel, and I'll be happy. No, what excites me most for this match is everything on the audio side of things. They could get Masako back to voice Goku Black, and I would love that. He's voiced Goku Black for a few abridged shorts before, and with Super Saiyan Rose giving him a British accent, having a British voice actor fits perfectly. The banner potential excites me too. Of course we're likely going to get a reference to It Was Me Barry, but in general, I'm excited to see how these two play off each other. I've never read a proper DC comic from cover to cover before, so I have more or less zero experience with Reverse Flash as a character, but from what I've heard, he sounds like the kind of delightful love-to-hate asshole of a villain that I'd find very entertaining to watch. So I hope he can play off Zamasu's god complex well enough. But the thing I'm most excited for is the track. Wally got a banger track last season, and Dragon Ball has consistently very good music even at the series' lowest points. So I'm hoping these series will lend themselves to a track I'll end up loving. The GM did a track for this match a while ago called Rose Reversal, and it's fucking stellar. If we get something even half as good as that for this fight, then I'll be very, very happy. I'm so excited to see this episode in a few weeks' time. This is one of the fights that's excited me the most all season. I hope it turns out good. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch Nem's review of the Batman episodes. If for some reason you want to hear me talk about the rest of this mostly lackluster trilogy, then that'll be linked in the description as well. Now enjoy the highlight reel.
Let's see either one of them win.
I hope they include Batman's magic.
Wants to know why you said that name.
Here it is. Can resist knives and gunfire, and even protect
Yeah, that'll help him against Iron Man.
God we all know and mean. Like
oh my god.
Thank you. Backup personality that would ensure he functions
Batman! Yes!
Oh please.
Perhaps his
Oh, no nostalgia critic joke. What the hell?
Nostalgia critic where was the critic?
This is a 0 out of 10 episode, just saying.
Look at him go!
Go on, Superman.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna. I don't think Iron Man.
Why are they doing this calc so early?
Iron Man did.
Clocks do again?
Should any fight with the Hellbat go on too long, Batman
I
may
mean, I
succumb
can't
to
think of
his
that word.
before
Only
fighting
Biff were here.
himself.
I like that. That's my favorite
face.
frame so far.
For fuel.
Dude, they haven't mentioned magic. I'm mad.
That was good, but he didn't mention magic.
Structures, just sort of like
It's a laser.
That wasn't a cutaway. Interesting.
Hmm.
his armors also
Not
come
complaining.
with onboard
Yeah.
AI.
Asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs.
Ooh, Batman's
Defending the Earth
fucked.
has conditioned him to be
Ugh.
threat imaginable.
Why did you so ugly?
Rancid.
I'm not legally at liberty to discuss that.
I'm planet level now.
They just made with planet level. Awesome sauce.
He even matched Magneto. Magneto, the guy that controls metal, the thing
Not
that surrounds
not
Tony's
very
entire
on
body,
par with
by
Darkseid,
amplifying his
but
power.
okay.
Magneto.
It really does say Shadow the Phoenix Force right
Yeah.
there, so that's
Yeah.
that's a bit more on par.
Okay,
They
so
brought
like
up
for
his
that
character
entire
development.
for that entire analysis, I was like, what the fuck? How is Hyde Man can stand a chance? And then they brought up the Godbuster.
Yes!
I was like, fuck.
Let's see it.
Interesting end
I
clip,
was
but
waiting
okay.
for that.
Alright,
Yeah,
I'm
that was-
gonna root for Iron Man.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
rooting for Iron Man.
Bootman.
I
But
want Iron Man to win too.
I'm still gonna say Batman probably is gonna
As
win.
Iron Man's
I think
got,
Iron
Iron Man's
Man-
got like the same
I'm
character.
rooting for Iron Man. I like him better now.
Holy crap!
Wow.
Hit him with
No,
watchtower, I
Iron
guess.
Man's just achieved his goal. That was what he wanted to happen.
Thanks.
Fine now. Good job, you fucking idiot.
And I am Iron Man.
Hey!
Yeah.
That was the suit that does the motherfucking infinite. Oh shoot!
Ah.
Man to genius billionaire playboy.
Oh my god.
I like this idea of it like ending with a physical fight between them.
Oh shit.
Oh!
Model 58.
Second.
The
Come on.
nano armor. Snuck it into your
Oh.
body.
Oh shit. Did he do it?
You would?
He won!
Did Iron Man do it?
I could really use a drink.
Damn!
Really?
Really?
Damn! Okay!
Yeah.
Go off, Iron Man!
Fucking go,
Yeah.
Defined by his tenacity.
That was a cool kill.
That
Awesome.
Batman with prep time losing, very interesting.
This is a really good episode. I really
This
like
is
it.
actually fucking awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh hey, I missed everything.
God!
Don Cheadle! Yes!
So y'all liked it? Cool. I'm
Yeah.
This is good.
There's a
The
good
next time we
explanation
go
for
back.
why Iron Man won. They have a good
Yeah,
explanation for it.
It makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, I buy it.
I thought he was
People are
gonna
gonna be
shrink
pissed.
the suit and crush him, but that makes
Yeah, I
sense.
thought they were gonna go
Just
for
be
Mr.
Booster
Gold
Gold's
again.
kill on cable though.
Nem's
Batman
dog.
gets fucked in Death Battle.
It's
The winner.
okay. Is it
Enough
wrong that
bitch
you
ass
just
boosted
defeat-
gold.
Goku Black?
Oh.
Reverse flash! Oh shoot! Another DC fight!
Another DC fucking strong